Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Babbling Irons breakdown video with myself and Mike today. An interesting link that's coming out around a Borussia Dortmund striker, Niclas Füllkrug, has now emerged as a potential target for West Ham, as reported by Darmesh of Sky Sports, and also works with X as well. I think X has since confirmed that we are interested as well. And it's probably an unlikely deal to get over the line. And it's a completely different direction to the type of striker we've been looking at in terms of the age profile. We know Fllkrug's a little bit on the older side. So yeah, if you're not familiar with who that is, we've got a little bit of a breakdown for you here. So yeah, as we said before, 31 years old, around 6'2", plays for the German national team, which I'm sure you're all familiar with from the Euros with that fantastic goal he scored. His contract expires in 2026 in June, and he has an estimated value of around 20 million euros. So it's a number 9 striker, isn't it, really, Mike? It's someone that at 31 years of age, you're not bringing in to, build for the long term necessarily, but it looks like it's an identified target to fill a void, which definitely needs filling. So what's your thoughts on the links to Fllkrug?
Yeah, I think when I look at Fllkrug, it's also partly like it's a player we didn't sign last year because the manager didn't take a chance on him. And that was obviously a player brought forward clearly by our new scouting system. It's a player that's clearly liked, but whether I would say that they brought him forward again this year is not one that I would necessarily agree with. Or if they have, it's probably been brought forward on the idea of he's more back up to a younger centre forward to give more experience, because we're probably thinking maybe Danny Ings might go. We may have been thinking that just in case, say, Michail Antonio got an offer that he couldn't refuse, that having that experienced head in the kind of front line is a smart idea. And I don't actually have too many qualms with going for Fllkrug. However, it's a drastic gear change from Duran, Samu, etc., who are these younger centre forwards, to then go for a 31-year-old, soon to be 32, really, over the course of the season, centre forward as your main pick. So I find it a bit of an odd one. You could argue maybe it's something that's been born out of a previous kind of connection. But yeah, it's a bit of an odd one because I'm not necessarily against it. However, I don't want this to happen if it's going to be our first choice centre forward.
Yeah, well, he actually had a pretty good return last season in the Bundesliga for Dortmund. He scored 12 goals and got 8 assists in 29 league appearances for them in the Bundesliga. And yeah, I think it's as you say, it's just a complete switch up with the direction, which again, we're going to be doing a separate video on kind of the transfer stuff, probably coming out tomorrow when you're watching this. So in terms of the player of Fllkrug, I know he is 31 years old, but talk me through his stats from last season and how he compares to the other strikers in the top 5 European leagues.
Yeah, so quite interestingly, we'll see it with the Antonio comparison, but he doesn't engage in many duels as such as you would maybe think. He's very good in the air, very strong in the air. He's a smart centre forward, so he has very good movement. He tends not to kind of be in positions where he's consistently having to battle the opposition. Maybe kind of dribble past. He's not really interested in that kind of that aspect. He's more of your traditional number 9 who will kind of be in the middle of the park, who will kind of look to kind of win those aerial balls, look to be played off of. Obviously, Dortmund player with a lot more with the ball. So in terms of passes, he has far greater kind of number of passes per 90, and he's pretty damn kind of consistent with that as well. His passing in and around the area is quite acute and quite good. Again, from a defensive point of view, he's not necessarily going to hassle and harry and chase everyone down. However, he isn't going to be kind of shirking those responsibilities, and he is very good at closing down those lines to kind of intercept and break up play. And in front of goal as well, he doesn't tend to have, if you look at that statistic there, shots per 90, he's having 1.86 shots per 90, so less than 2 shots per game. And bear in mind, this Dortmund team have a lot of ball, do create a fair amount of chances. He's not getting many of those and not many touches in the box, but when he does, he is extremely clinical. Of those shots, just under 50% are on target, and 22% of any shot on target results in a goal. So his ability to shoot consistently is fantastic. Again, very good header. He was desperately unlucky in the Champions League final with 2 chances that he had, 2 fantastic chances. And I think on any other day, he would probably bury at least one of those that he didn't score. But he's one of those players that will find spaces. He will look to get in behind. He's not the quickest, but again, it's that, I think, a way to explain that movement and ability, how he can get free. It's a bit like the Teddy Sheringham type centre forward who didn't necessarily get involved in the huge amounts and didn't have a blistering pace. But however, he could get in behind because he had such good intelligence, was able to make great runs. And he reminds me of that kind of intelligence. And as we said, his finishing is brilliant. I think he's one less goal than what his XG should be.
Pretty on par with it, yeah.
He's basically, bang on par with what he should have done this year. And that was, I think it's 13 goals out of potential 14 he's scored this season, which is, sorry, I've maybe less than I'll say, I may have cooked that slightly, but it's a fantastic return from him. And he's very clinical when he gets those opportunities. So if you can get him in and around the area a lot more and get him to shoot more, then you're a lot likely to see a far greater return in goals. If we look at that, how statistically he performed last year and even the year before, I think he had 17 goals the season before he signed for Borussia Dortmund. So he is a consistent striker. If you give him the chances, he will score you goals.
Would you be happy with him coming in and being the main striker, that main focal point up front? It's likely that Antonio is going to be staying, so he's going to be an option. It's, again, we don't know what's going to be happening with Danny Ings, but again, probably someone that's going to be sold later on in this transfer window. If Fllkrug comes in, it's someone we're signing to, again, it's not a signing for the future. Like, even a Duran, he's still only 20 years of age. This is at the complete opposite end of the scale. And if you're going to be spending money on a striker that's 31 years old, you'd probably expect them to come in and, be starting and leading the line and being that main goal scoring threat from strikers. So do you think he would be brought in to be a starter? This video is sponsored by Emotiv. Emotiv provide cutting-edge digital services, solutions, and training to companies and businesses of all sizes. Emotiv have worked with some fantastic brands in the past, as you can see behind me, the likes of Apple, Google, Tesco, and of course, Babylon Irons. Emotiv offer 4 key services, the first being digital solutions, the second being professional training and coaching, the third being fractional experts, and the fourth being AI readiness. We're going to be working with Emotiv on our channel to improve how we showcase the data to you guys in our breakdown videos and data analysis videos. If you want to find out more information about how Emotiv can work with you, make sure to scan the QR code now, which will take you to emotivtouch.com, where you can find out more details about the company, and the link will be in the description. A massive thank you to Emotiv once again for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to
it. At this present time, yes, I think he would be. However, I don't think that's the right choice. I think if he was to come in this present time, it will be to be a striker to allow us then to have greater flexibility or greater budget in other positions.
Do you think he starts over Antonio?
It's an awkward one, right? Because we know Antonio was wanted by Lopetegui last season. What I think it will depend on the game as to who starts. Antonio's no spring chicken either. And if we look at the comparisons, they are fairly well matched in certain areas. Obviously, the passes are going to genuinely be higher for Fllkrug, purely because he plays for Borussia Dortmund, who like to have a lot of the ball. So from a pass perspective, or the volume of passes, it's always going to be much higher than Antonio. And I think it's important just to kind of look at statistics in that they're not necessarily an indicator of, this player is better than that player. It often indicates the style of that player as well as the style of the team that they're playing. And as you're looking at Antonio's, he looks quite like an eagle, actually, just looking at it just now, which is quite interesting. But Fllkrug, you can see, in terms of what he does, he's very much someone you can play off of in and around the area as well. He'll look to kind of create shooting opportunities for teammates. We can see that in the number of deep completions and key passes, as well as the assists that he's generated as well, and the passing into the penalty area. Whilst it's less passes in, it's more accurate than Antonio. I think that's the key thing, is that he's more secure, I would suggest, in passing than you would get in Antonio. He is very good in the area. He's incredibly combative. And again, when we talk about the finishing side, I would say he's a better, more natural finish than Antonio.
Yep.
Antonio does give you that ability for someone you can feed the ball into, who will then, run into the channels and will drag the team up the pitch. Fllkrug is not going to do that. You would need to have players around, which thankfully we have that in Kudus and also Bowen. But you're not going to get something out of him. You're not going to get a ball carrier out of him. So you need to then change how you're dynamic. And I think it will depend on the game. If there's a game where we know we're going to need, say, a striker consistently running in behind and maybe dragging the ball up the pitch, I think we'll see Antonio. If it's one we're expected maybe to get the ball quite often into the area and have a lot of touches around the box, I think we'd probably see Fllkrug if we were to get him.
Do you think it's one where it could probably happen more later on in the window? Because we know Dortmund will probably be looking to sell one of their strikers because they've brought in Guirassy. We obviously mentioned, I don't know if we mentioned it on air or not, but obviously Moukoko, the youngster who's still only 19. And they've also got Fllkrug as well to play in that striker position. So they've got 3 players there. It's likely that they'd probably want to move on one. Do you think for around, again, what price do you think it's going to take to get this deal over the line? And if it was to happen, what would you rate that transfer out of 10?
I think it'll probably take near the 20 million euro mark, maybe a touch higher because of how well he performed last year and how good he was in the Champions League. I said he missed a couple of great opportunities in the Champions League final. However, we've seen many a good striker miss similar, if not easier chances. So I wouldn't hold that against him in any way, shape or form. I think if he was to sign him based on the fact that we need more than a stopgap, and if he's been signed for a first team, I have to say it's a 7 because he is a good player. The reason why I don't feel I can go high is because of the age point. If he was, 25 or what have you, then I think we would be sitting and going, well, that's clearly an 8 or a 9. If he can replicate his form in the Premier League, then because it's a player that we know can score goals, can link play, which suits the team wants to be more possession based, and he's incredibly good in the air. So whilst he doesn't have that dribbling element, the other qualities in his game are something that you really want in a centre forward, in that he can hold the ball, he can be combative in the air and win a lot of balls in the air. He's secure in possession, and he's a brilliant finisher given the opportunity. So it's as I say, it's an awkward one. If he's coming in as a squad player, I would probably say it's an 8 or a 9 as a squad player. But if he's coming in as our first team based on his age, and it will be arguably then a stopgap, I struggle to go higher than 7. But I don't want that to deter people from him because he is a good quality centre forward. And I think when we look at most of the reaction, it isn't actually against him as a player. It's the fact that we've looked at 20-year-olds, really young players, or even Yen Naziri, who's 26, 27. And then we're going to a 31-year-old when we've already got a 33-year-old, I think, in Antonio, 34-year-old even.
33, 34 now, yeah.
Yeah, and Danny Ings is, 33 as well. So you're just then going, well, we've got 3 aging centre forwards. Next year we're going to be in a state where 2 of them are definitely gone, and we've got a 32-year-old as well, only centre forward option. So it does bring a level of concern, I think, and I understand it.
Yeah.
As a squad player, I do think it's a brilliant acquisition.
Yeah. From a player perspective, it's a striker that's probably going to score us goals. So if you're looking at it in isolation, without the links we've had and the other types of strikers we've been trying to sign, and given that Antonio and Ings are the age they are, it would have, in isolation, it's a good target to go for. It's just because of the aging squad we've got across the board. We're trying to bring that down, and it's a very drastic change in approach, which is slightly concerning. But again, in terms of bringing him in as a player, I'd back it. I think he'd be a very good signing. And if you're replacing someone like Danny Ings with him, it's a no-brainer for me. So yeah, let us know in the comments down below. Would you like to see Fllkrug at West Ham next summer? Could be one to keep an eye on as the transfer window continues and our hunt for a striker also continues. But yeah, if you enjoyed the breakdown, make sure to leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. And Mike, until the next one.
Come on, you Irons.